There's no way that you could watch Michael Jordan and LeBron James and think that Michael Jordan is not the GOAT.
LeBron James has spent so long being protected by the basketball world that it almost feels strange when the tone starts to shift. For years, if LeBron had a bad night, the conversation usually found a way to circle back to somebody else. It was the coach's fault, the roster's fault, the front office's fault, the schedule's fault, the matchup's fault, or the fact that he just needs more help. And to be fair, there have definitely been plenty of times where that criticism made sense. But now, something different is happening. The excuses are getting louder, the patience is getting thinner, and even the media that used to wrap every LeBron conversation in a layer of protection is starting to sound a little more skeptical. That is what makes this whole situation so interesting. The latest criticism is not about LeBron missing a shot or having a rough scoring night. It is about something a lot deeper than that. It is about defense. It is about effort. It is about whether a 41-year-old LeBron James, who still gets praised every time he makes a highlight play, also deserves the same energy when he is clearly dragging on the other end of the floor. And according to the source, that is exactly what is now being questioned at a much louder level.
In your best interest to play all 82, is that something you thought about at all since you made the goal?
I mean, that's a goal, but we'll see. But it's something I ain't discussing right now.
The Lakers reportedly had a meeting between JJ Redick, LeBron, and Luka Doncic after a stretch of bad defense. Redick, who has not exactly been shy about holding players accountable, apparently wanted more from his two stars on that end of the court. That alone tells you where the conversation is right now. This is not about whether LeBron can still score. This is not about whether he can still throw down a dunk or make a chase-down block every now and then. Everybody already knows he can still do that. The issue is whether he is actually doing the work that the Lakers need from him on a consistent basis. And that is where the criticism starts to hit harder. Because the source makes a very blunt point. LeBron's biggest excuse now is age. He's 41, so what do you want him to do? That is the defense people keep using whenever his defense gets brought up. He's older, he's not the same athlete. He can't be expected to chase every possession like he's 28 again. That sounds reasonable on the surface, it really does. But the problem, according to the clip, is that LeBron is still being praised as if he has no age-related limitations when it comes to everything else. When he dunks, when he sprints in transition, when he hits a chase-down block, when he plays with burst, everyone says he's unreal for his age. Everyone says he's the greatest 40-year-old ever. Everyone says his longevity is proof that he belongs in the GOAT conversation forever. So the question becomes very simple. If he's still great enough to deserve praise for the athletic moments, why is it suddenly unfair to criticize the defensive lapses? That is the core of the argument, and it's a strong one because it exposes the double standard that has followed LeBron for a long time. He gets all the credit when the game looks beautiful. He gets all the legacy points when he does something historic. He gets all the flowers when he does things that make people shake their heads in admiration. But the moment the conversation turns towards effort, particularly defensive effort, the conversation changes. Suddenly it is age. Suddenly it is fatigue. Suddenly it is impossible to ask him to do too much. Suddenly everybody starts acting like defending is some huge burden that should be excused because of his mileage.
Yeah, I mean, listen, we came that far, so, trying to see if I can make plays. Obviously my presence on the floor, is key for our ball club, but I thought the guys did a great job, especially in overtime. I thought Marcus was great in overtime, hit the three, and away from their bench. I think Rui threw it over the top. He hit the three, got to the free throw line, made free throws.
That is exactly what the source is pushing back against. And honestly, it's hard to ignore the point being made here. Nobody is asking LeBron to be Gary Payton. Nobody's saying he needs to lock down the opponent's best player for 40 minutes a night. Nobody's pretending he can cover the entire floor by himself or play like a young guard in his prime. But there is a difference between being limited and being disengaged. There is a difference between conserving energy and looking like you have already checked out on the play. There is a difference between being older and choosing not to show effort. That distinction matters. The clip keeps coming back to the idea that LeBron's defensive issues are not purely physical. That is a major part of the back and forth. Because if he physically couldn't do it anymore, then the conversation would be different. People would talk about age curves, limitations, minutes, and role changes. But the source argues that there is still plenty of evidence that LeBron can produce elite plays when he wants to. He can still race back and make a big defensive stop. He can still explode for a dunk. He can still move with the burst of a player who looks far younger than his birth certificate says he should be. That means the problem is not just that his body has completely fallen apart. The source says the real issue is choice. That is what makes the criticism so sharp. The clip argues that LeBron is choosing when to give effort and when to conserve it, choosing when to sprint and when to drift, choosing when to chase a play and when to stand around, choosing when to help and when to complain to the refs after a turnover while the Lakers are basically playing 4-on-5. That is the kind of thing fans notice, and once they start noticing it, the excuses become harder to defend. The meeting with JJ Redick is a big part of that story too, because if the coach is calling in LeBron and Luka to talk about defensive accountability, that means the situation has already become serious. It means the problem is no longer just a talking point for analysts. It's something the coaching staff is trying to solve inside the building. And the fact that Redick apparently had to tell LeBron, a 41-year-old superstar with one of the greatest careers in NBA history, to step it up on defense says everything about how far things have gone. That is where the tone shifts from respect to frustration, and the source does not stop there. It points out that even after Redick's meeting, the results didn't really change. The Lakers got by the Kings, but then they came right back down to earth against the Pistons. The defense was still bad. The effort was still suspect. The overall picture was still messy, and LeBron, according to the argument being made, remained their worst defender by far. Not only that, but the source claims he is near the bottom of the league in individual defensive win shares, which is wild to even say about someone of his stature. That is the kind of statistic that people used to avoid bringing up about LeBron because it felt almost disrespectful. Now it's part of the conversation.
Michael Jordan has 10 scoring titles. Michael Jordan was a 9-time All-NBA defensive team member. Michael Jordan won 6 titles, 6 NBA Finals MVPs, never once allowed a game to get to a series, a championship series, to get to a Game 7. Never once. That was in his 13 years in Chicago. We ain't counting the 2 years with the Wizards. He was trying to become an owner, and they needed him to come out of retirement to have an ownership stake. That's what they needed.
And if you are a Lakers fan, that has to be frustrating, because the team is already dealing with enough issues. They are not built like a perfect contender. They do not have the sort of roster that can just bury bad defense with overwhelming offense every night. They need their top players to set the tone. They need their stars to show buy-in. They need LeBron and Luka to be engaged on both ends in a way that lets everybody else feed off that standard. If that does not happen, then the Lakers are vulnerable to exactly the kind of games the source is talking about: getting embarrassed, getting blown out, and getting punished by teams they should be handling more comfortably. That is where the roster excuse comes in. LeBron supporters always fall back on the same answer. The roster is not good enough. The Lakers do not have enough help. The team is not built for success. There are not enough defenders. There are not enough reliable pieces. The lineup around him is flawed. And to be fair, some of that is true. The Lakers are not a flawless team. The roster does have holes. That is not the question. The question is whether that justifies the lack of effort. And the source says no. That is the heart of the backfire. Because the roster excuse may explain why the Lakers are not title favorites. It may explain why they are not the deepest team. It may explain why they are struggling defensively. But it does not explain why LeBron is allowed to look disengaged on a nightly basis. It does not explain why he can stand on the other side of the court after a turnover and complain instead of getting back. It does not explain why he can allow offensive rebounds to happen and simply not make the extra effort to clean them up. It does not explain why a player with his basketball IQ and physical gifts still looks content to be passive in moments where the team needs him to be active. That is where the defense of him starts to wear thin. And the source makes a really important point when it says that if LeBron really cannot do any more on defense, then the logical answer would be to reduce his role. Come off the bench, play fewer minutes, become a normal 40-year-old in basketball terms. That is actually a very reasonable suggestion. If his body truly cannot handle the demands, then there should be adjustments. But the reason that argument does not fully hold up is because LeBron himself has repeatedly resisted those kinds of limits. The source brings up the idea that the Lakers tried to put him on a minute restriction before, and he refused it. He vetoed it. He said he still had more in the tank than most of the league. That changes the conversation. Because once you insist that you are still capable of carrying major minutes, then you are also accepting the criticism that comes with those minutes. You cannot say you are still basically in your prime when it suits the praise, and then say you are too old when it comes time for accountability. That is the "you can't have it both ways" problem the source keeps hammering. And that is why some media voices are starting to turn. Not all of them. LeBron still has plenty of defenders. He still has a massive support base. He still has a whole ecosystem built around his greatness. But the tone is shifting because the same patterns are repeating. The Lakers play poorly on defense, LeBron gets criticized. The excuses come out. The excuses feel familiar. Then he does something athletic and everybody is reminded of how special he still is. Then the criticism disappears for a while. Then it comes back the next time the team loses. That cycle is getting old for a lot of people. The source also really leans into the idea that LeBron is not the main character anymore. That is a hard thing for some fans to accept, because for so long the NBA basically revolved around him. But in Los Angeles now, Luka Doncic is the guy the team is centered around. The source says that plainly. Luka is the leader, Luka is driving a car. LeBron may still be one of the best players on the roster and maybe one of the best in the league for his age, but he is not the center of the universe here anymore.
Every person in the bubble is under a unique circumstance. Everybody that's in the bubble is not accustomed in a professional career of playing without fans. So, Skip, no one wants to hear why you guys haven't played well, why you haven't shot the ball well, why you haven't looked like the Lakers that gained the #1 seed in the West. All they want to hear is, what are you going to do to fix the problem?
That matters because it changes what the Lakers need from him. They do not need him to dominate every possession. They do not need him to carry the ball like he is the only star in the room. They do not need him to focus on looking good individually. They need him to help the team win. And if that means sacrificing some stats, some possessions, and some of the old ego-driven habits, then that is the cost of playing in a real team setting at this stage of his career. That is the piece the source keeps pushing back to. The Lakers are a basketball team. They are not a LeBron James highlight factory. They are not there to make him look good. They are there to win games. And if the roster is flawed, the answer is not for LeBron to coast on one end while demanding the ball and the praise on the other. Either he is helping in a way that matters, or he is not. That is a brutal standard, but it is a fair one. And the source takes it even further by saying that if LeBron truly cannot fulfill the basic responsibilities anymore, then maybe the honest answer is retirement. That sounds harsh, but it is part of the larger point. At some stage, if a player is too old to defend and too old to perform the basic tasks the team needs, then why is he still logging massive minutes and shaping the entire structure of the roster? The source is saying that there comes a point where the options narrow. Either he reduces his role, or he actually embraces the limitations, or he calls it a career. If you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to subscribe for more NBA stories, LeBron coverage, and deep dive basketball content just like this. And drop your thoughts in the comments, because this conversation around LeBron's defense is only getting louder.